sometimes we have an idea of who we want to be and we have who we really are. And if we are showing up who we want to be and it isn't in alignment with who we really are, we're sending that mixed message. I am Katie Power, and I'm a performance coach, and I am here to help you show up big and achieve even bigger. So, today we are talking about the first step that you need to take in order to achieve your goal. And it's often a very overlooked step. The problem that we have is that anytime you're making any kind of a presentation where the audience has to make a decision based on what it is that you present, so for example, making an offer from the stage as a public speaker, or competing in a singing competition for an audience of judges, or auditioning for a role in a show or a production in front of a table of casting directors, anything like that. Those are just some examples. The problem that we run into is that no matter what type of presentation you're making, your audience is going to use their instincts to make first impressions of you. And they do this whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not. It's just an instinctive thing that happens to us as humans. People make first impressions of us. But what we're going to talk about today is that you have the ability to have some control over the first impressions that other people make of you, which means you can use that to your advantage to have them expect the things of you that you want them to expect. So we're going to talk about some tools of how to go about that. I'm going to share a little bit of when I first got into using GPS for navigation. I started calling mine Rosie. There's this big long story about how that got to be. But so my GPS is Rosie. So when I need to go somewhere, I open Rosie and I plug in my destination. And she automatically calculates the route with all the necessary steps that I need in order to get to my destination. And it is totally going to be different getting that destination depending on where I am at the moment. So she automatically knows where I am and she calculates the route based on where I am. So if I'm going to, let's say that I am going to, let's say that I'm going to Chicago, where I'm from. Where I am right now in Vegas, it's going to give me, well, it'll probably give me a couple of different options of ways to get there. But if I am coming from, if I'm coming from my friend's house in Denver, it's going to pick a totally different route. Or if I am coming from another friend's house in the Orlando area, it's going to be a totally different route as well. So, as you know, your GPS calculates things based on where you are. The other thing about GPS is that if it doesn't know where you are, which it always does because it's GPS, but if we had to plug in where we are and we didn't know where we are, it doesn't have the ability to generate a path. The reason I'm bringing this up is that it's the same with your goals. So you're going to pick your goal. Your goal is Rosie's destination. Without knowing who you are intimately, being really clear about who you are, which is your place of origin, then Rosie doesn't have a way to calculate the route of all the necessary steps that you need to get there. Now, how do expectations come into this? When you know who you are and you're able to show up as clearly as possible as who you are, then your audience, without ever having to get to know you, will expect something of you based on how you show up. This is why I always say that how you show up matters. And I don't just mean what you're wearing. I mean everything about you, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the confidence level that you have when presenting. All of those things send a message, an intuitive sort of message, instinctive message to your audience, whatever kind of audience it is, about who you are. It allows them the ability to form first impressions of you. If you don't know who you are, then they get to decide for you, because their first impressions of you become their truth about who you are. So what you want is for that first impression, the impression that you are leaving on those people, to be the one that you want it to be. You want them to see you as you want to be seen, if that makes any sense. And so the way to do that, first you want to get clear about who you are and how someone like you tends to naturally show up anyway. And then you want to tweak whatever is necessary in order to make sure that you are dynamically showing up that way all the time, so that it's obvious. You want for someone, like if you were flipping through a magazine and faces were on this magazine, you want to be able to create a first impression on those people in the magazine. Like if you're in that magazine, you want people to be able to look and be like, oh, that person I know everything I need to know about her, right? That's how clear you want to be. And when you're unclear, you're sending all kinds of mixed messages. And sometimes we have an idea of who we want to be, and we have who we really are. And if we are showing up who we want to be and it isn't in alignment with who we really are, we're sending that mixed message. So we have to know who we really are, meld it with who we want to be. And sometimes who we want to be ends up being something that doesn't fit. And so sometimes we have to alter that a little bit. So we have to figure out who we are first, so that we can figure out how what we want can meld together so we can go forward and get the goal that we want. Does that make sense? So with regard to GPS, what I was saying about Rosie is that in order to get to your destination, in order to have the path laid out in front of you, who you are determines how you make decisions. It determines, if you're a singer, the types of songs that you do. If you are a speaker that makes offers from the stage, it determines the kinds of people you speak to. It determines the kind of offers that you make. If you are an actor, it determines the kinds of roles that you go for and the ones that you turn down. So the clearer that you are about yourself, who you are, helps you to know how to show up in the world. And when you know how to show up in the world, then that path is laid out in front of you. Also, when you know how to show up in the world, your audience sees exactly who you are, and they know how they can decide whether or not you are for them. It's easier for them to make the decision they have to make because you are presenting who you are. They can see it very clearly. Does that make sense? So, one way how. My team and I created this really cool tool. If you've seen archetype tests, this is one of them, but we created it specifically with a performance sort of edge. And what it does is it takes those typical, the standard Jungian archetypes, and we've put it in a sort of, there's a lot of questions that you answer that help take you down a path to figure out which one is the most like you. Whatever one you get, if it resonates with you that this is who you are, there are things about it that are going to help clue you in and give you a structure to know, like, okay, this is who you are. And if you show up in these kinds of ways, people are going to see you that way. So we've created a quiz. I'd love for you to check it out. It is singwithoutlimits.com/quiz is where you go to take this quiz. And I would love to know what you get. So go ahead and check that out. And this is going to help you figure out a little bit more about who you are. It'll give you that origin, that place to start, so that when you plug in your destination, your goal, it'll help you know the path that you need to take in order to get there. It'll help you make decisions better, more aligned with who you are and the goal that you have ahead of you. If you have any questions about any of that, please write them below and I will come back through and answer. And if you want to talk about this more in depth, see how this can help you achieve whatever goal you have, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that anytime. Just reach out. All right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.